Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Premier League Unfiltered. I hope you're all doing well. Alright, everyone, take a deep breath because Manchester Derby weekend is finally here, and honestly, I don't know whether to be excited or absolutely terrified. We've got Michael Carrick stepping into the dugout. It's his first game as interim, and what a way to start. I love the appointment because Carrick gets it. He's lived these derbies. He knows that feeling in the tunnel when the noise from the Stratford end hits you. But let's be real, is knowing the club enough to stop a Pep masterclass? That's the big question hanging over Old Trafford this weekend. And I wanted to dig into the stats because they tell a story of how much the power balance has shifted. Historically, we rule the city. In 197 meetings, United have 80 wins to City's 62. But look at Old Trafford. This is meant to be our ground. But in the league, we've got 33 and they've got 31 wins. And if City wins this weekend, they're practically breathing down our necks on our own turf. And the recent form over the last 10 derbies, City have taken 5 wins, we've managed 3. They've dominated the ball, but we've shown, just like the FA Cup final, that we can really hurt them. And I also feel this derby is a turning point for the entire season. It practically feels like a semi-final for both teams. You see, for City, they're 6 points behind Arsenal. If they draw or lose and Arsenal win, that gap goes to 7 or 9 points. At that point, you're basically handing the trophy to Arsenal. And for us at United, we are down to 17 games left this season. No cups, no distractions. We are currently 7th, looking up at Newcastle and Brentford. And if Carrick loses this and then we go to Arsenal next, we could be hovering mid-table by February. And we need to lock in that usual spot or the project is dead before it even starts. But then let's talk about the nightmare scenario. That is City's front line. Haaland has 20 goals. Now Semenyo, who's just joined them, has 10 goals this season. That is 30 goals between two players in one season. That is ridiculous. And then you look at our defense at Old Trafford. We've conceded 13 goals at home this season, 13 in front of our own fans. And if we leave gaps for Semenyo to exploit or let Haaland linger near the back post, it's going to be a long afternoon for us. However, this is big, however, because City's defense is depleted. We're expecting a backline of Nunez, Kushinov, Maxaline, and O'Reilly. That is young, a makeshift defense if you call it. And if Cunha, Sesko, and maybe a returning Mbomo can't put pressure on that, then we have a serious problem. And also, I'm happy to see Ahmad and Mbomo back in the matchday squad. Even if they just come off the bench, we need that spark. And in terms of the predicted lineup, I think Carrick goes solid. So Lamens in goal, Dallo, Heaven, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Mainu, and Bruno, Cunha, Mbomo, and Sesko. And for City, Donnarumma, backline of Nunez, Kushinov, Maxaline, and O'Reilly, and then Rodri, Bernardo, and Shirky, and then the front line of Foden, Semenyo, and Haaland. And with predictions for the derby, look, my head says City's quality wins out, but my heart says the Carrick bounce is real. United at home with a point to prove. I don't think we will lose, so I'm going for a chaotic 2-2 draw. It won't please the title chasers and it might not help our top 4 push much, but I think it'll be a hell of a game to watch. Anyways, the rest of the league is still moving. First off, let's look at Liverpool versus Burnley. Liverpool cannot afford another draw like they had against Fulham. So I will go with the Liverpool win 3-1. Then you've got Chelsea versus Brentford. This is Liam Rosenier's first Premier League game at Stamford Bridge. But Brentford are dangerous, but still I'm going for a narrow 2-1 Chelsea win. But now let's talk about the game everyone is circling. Spurs versus West Ham. They're calling it the El Sackio because both Thomas Frank at Spurs and Nuno at West Ham are under massive pressure. But the huge news for Spurs is Conor Gallagher has signed for Spurs. They've just wrapped the 34 million deal to bring him back from Atletico. Honestly, I think this is a masterstroke. With Bentenko out on a long-term injury, Gallagher is exactly what Spurs have been missing. The engine room, the energy, the pressing and the leadership. He's a player who knows the London derby intensity better than anyone. And I expect him to start or at least feature in this game because he's the kind of player who can turn a stale performance into a high-intensity win. And I think Spurs take a 2-1 win and Gallagher might just be the one to assist the winner. In the late kickoff, we have Forest versus Arsenal. Arsenal are 6 points clear, but Forest away is always a trap. And if Arsenal drop points here and City have already won the derby early in the day, that gap shrinks to 3 or 4 points in a heartbeat. But then I will go for an Arsenal win, a narrow one, 1-0. And let's not ignore the rest. Sunderland versus Palace, I'll go with the Sunderland win 2-0. Leeds versus Fulham, I think it will be a 1-1 draw. And Newcastle versus Wolves, Newcastle are hovering in the top 4 conversation and they look clinical. So I expect a big win for them to keep the pressure on United and Chelsea. So I'll go with a 4-1 win for them. And then Villa to beat Everton 2-0. And Brighton Bournemouth will be a great game. and I'll go with the Brighton win 3-2. Anyways, we're coming to the end of the show, and I think it's a weird time in the league. You've got Chelsea and United both starting over with new faces on the bench, while Arsenal and City are in a high speed chase at the top. And if Carrick gets a result in the derby, the atmosphere around Old Trafford changes overnight. And if he doesn't, we're looking at a very long, very quiet second half of the season. So that's all for today's previews. Make sure to let me know in the comments who you are backing in the Manchester derby. Thank you all for listening. Take care, everyone, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.